Welcome to Business Women Australia's radio show, proud station sponsor. I'm Sally Barker, and each week I'll be interviewing a leading member of BWA. These inspiring business leaders are very generous in sharing their stories with us, their insights and their expertise. On the show today, we'll be talking with company directors Jennifer Bryant and Lynn Hawkins. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Sally.
Good morning.
Now, today we're going to talk everything leadership. Okay. Now, leadership defined, traits and qualities, and what are the traits of great leadership? So, Lynn, can you give us a bit of a background on leadership and how you get into a leadership role?
Well, sometimes we're being put into a leadership role through our career progression. We might have been very good at what we do, technically brilliant, a specialist in a certain area. And, they're the sorts of leaders that find themselves in a management role or general management and been elevated either to partnership of a firm. And so just by virtue of being good at their job, they've become a leader. And Jen and I were talking about this earlier on, in terms of how we do define leadership, because just being put into a role doesn't necessarily mean you're a great leader, and you might have to do some personal investment and professional development to really get the skills to become a great leader. And some people are naturally brilliant leaders and can take people, on a journey or to a place that they normally wouldn't go themselves. So, Jen, you had some interesting ideas about leadership that we were talking about this morning too.
So would you say, like you said, some people find themselves all of a sudden in a leadership role, but then others, it has been a bit of a career path for them to get into that position. So are there certain traits a person either has or they need to acquire to be a leader?
I'll answer this one. Well, what we've discovered over the years is working with individual business owners and business women, and that ranges from corporates to entrepreneurs, small business owners, mumpreneurs, all those spectrum of women. And so do they need traits? They need to have an influence. They need to have a point of difference. And a self-appointed leader has to have some track record of trustability and stability. So is there things you need to do to be that person? I think you need to have an authentic side to you. People would look at you with those, that sort of longing for more from you, because you've been able to connect with them and they can resonate with what you're saying. So the traits have to come from within. And that's what I've noticed, no matter which sector they're coming from. And if there's people asking you questions and wanting to hang out with you and really abiding by what it is that you're giving them, information or instructions, or just sharing with them all your knowledge, you're either an accidental leader or you're a leader of position, and you put yourself there, or somebody's nominated you and given you an opportunity to actually step into that arena.
Certainly, in the corporate world, I've been very, inspired by leaders that have had a really strong, clear vision. I think confidence in their vision and their ability to actually articulate it so that you can buy into it is, I think, one of the most important traits of a great leader. And I think for anyone who's in a leadership role or aspiring to be in a leadership role, to have a clear vision for what the future can look like, and for it to be a vision that people can actually attach to, I think is one of the greatest traits.
And communicating that as well. I find that, the greater the leader, the better they are at communicating their vision. It's very important, from my perspective at least, to see that whatever it is that your vision is, it's depicted throughout that culture of all the people that you're working with to generate and to portray the end result of what it is that you're trying to do. So unless you can communicate that to the individuals, they're all mystified as to where you're going, why you're going there, why you're changing things. So the traits, standout trait is definitely communicating that vision and having them buy into it and
That's
owning
right.
it.
The other, I think, it's interesting when you talk about communication too, because, behind every great leader is an incredible passion for what they do. And in communicating with passion, and purpose, that's where you get that buy-in.
So that's
So-
even with accidental leaders, isn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. You can pick a leader who really loves what they do and believes in it. So, you know, that's where I think that people want to follow those kinds of leaders where that passion is infectious.
They live by their values too, so it's not a mystical value set. They have this way of showcasing their values just by the way they show up. And I think that demonstrates a really good quality in a leader. And if you're walking the talk, not just in one particular space, but it's seen everywhere you go. So whether you're online, offline, in meetings, it is something that you can believe and trust that person is the same person, no matter how we see her. She is recognisable as a leader, no matter what she's doing.
I think values, you know, really do underpin the great leaders. That the values around honesty and transparency as well. And I think we've been talking a lot about vulnerability in leadership and the courage to actually show yourself as a real human being. I think in this new way of operating, people are really looking for those authentic people who are prepared to actually be honest and to take responsibility for where they maybe even made a poor judgment, to be able to show that so that it's okay to try new things and what have we learnt from that, to be putting themselves up as perfect. And I think that vulnerability and that trueness of humanity is another really important value that we see in really good top leaders that we've been working with.
I think that's what's changed. I think that's been the big shift, is where we have seen leaders as having to be perfect and having to be, you know, a different kind of a person. And over the, you know, recent years, we have seen that shift, like you've just been talking about, where people are more vulnerable, they're more genuine, they're more real and transparent.
That's right. Although, you know, it's an interesting discussion around authenticity, because we've had some people that are aspiring to be leaders that have taken that view of authenticity to be maybe a little careless too in their communications online.
Yes.
So it's a real balance, you know, between not going out and having a vent or a rage online, because that's your authentic self, but having a balance around how you very carefully. So it goes back to that trait that Jen was talking about earlier on about the importance of communication. And you have to be really careful, I think, to be always trying to be positive and optimistic in the way that you're putting things forward. So even when you're showing frustration, or you're sharing a vulnerability, that it's still pitched in a leadership tone, which has got to be very professional, positive, and always looking at, well, what have we learnt from that? Well, what do I expect? What am I hoping for? As opposed to, a real sort of frustrated, expose of the innermost untapped or unreserved feelings, So separating emotion quite often from your communications is actually a trait of is probably what sets some leaders above the rest.
I think
with that in mind, how important is it in terms of coaching, mentorship?
I was going to suggest that. Yeah. So a sounding board. So however you depict that. So for instance, I'm very open. And I have my heart on my sleeve, and my leadership style is very warm, but it's also very ouchy. So I usually speak how I speak, and so Lynn's a great sounding board. So I might want to have a rant. I might want to express my concern around something that doesn't necessarily need to go any further. So I think a great trait is to be able to recognise who is your sounding board. Is it a mentor? Is it a business coach? But it's got to be somebody that you can trust, that can say, quite frankly, if you had have let that go, you would have taken, points right out of the game, that your leadership quality would have been diminished, and sometimes that's what people don't recognise, is that it takes a long time to build that back up. So finding somebody that you can do that with in a safe, comfortable environment, get it off your chest and just pick yourself up and say, okay, well, really at the end of the day, that wasn't something that I needed to make a big fuss or an opinion about. It was just some personal issue that I had with one or two things. So
That also reminds me of another trait, I think, of a great leader, is their ability to handle feedback, their openness, and by actually being like that as a leader, you're going to actually create a culture within your organisation, within your business, where it's actually okay and safe to give each other feedback. I remember the days when 360-degree sort of response feedbacks were being implemented as a program inside some large corporations that I worked with, and it was very hard for some of the guys in the top level executive to really be getting feedback from their employees, around what they weren't doing as well as they thought they might have been doing. It's quite confronting when you're already at the top. And I think we've actually moved beyond that to where leaders are actually inviting feedback, on a day-to-day basis, not waiting for it to be a review or a formal process. I know certainly our members are very comfortable giving us feedback, when we're doing...
Yes, unfortunately.
No, it's very fortunate, and
great.
we love that. And we want... That's a part of being a supportive culture and an organisation that's committed to personal and business improvement. If you're not really committed to that and you want to pretend that you're all doing everything really well and you don't really want to hear the truth, you're only ever going to get so far. So,
we agree.
Yeah.
I finished a presentation, for instance, last week, and there were the leaders right there in the room that I said to them, what did you think? And I copped it. And I'm happy with that, because had they have not said, the truth is, Jen, then I would have just presumed I did a great job and I was right on time and everybody heard exactly what needed to be said. And we do that role reversal all the time within our membership group. So, we're fortunate to have 3 tiers of members, and that's what we love, because the Diamond members can actually give you that feedback, and for our personal growth as leaders of the company, I want more of that.
So
well, I want that feedback from everyone.
Yeah, if you take feedback as feedback and not as a personal attack, it can help you. It can help you grow.
So that actually shows another great and really powerful trait in a great leader is the trust that you have in relationships. So I think a lot of these are soft skills. The financial acumen, the business development skills, your ability to manage people, all those other things that make you a good business manager are taken for granted. If you want to go beyond being a great business manager, a great business owner, a great operator, and to become a great leader, it's these amazing soft skills and soft attributes that will actually set you apart.
I like that. Leadership is a soft attribute.
It
I
is.
like that.
Yeah,
that's really,
nice.
really good. Okay, well, thank you, Jennifer Bryan and Lynn Hawkins, Company Directors of Business Women Australia, proud station sponsors, for joining us today on Business Women Australia's radio show.
Thanks,
Thanks, Sally.